I identify as a researcher, and I think that we have very consciously made decisions to organize ourselves and to communicate as researchers. So what we see is that there is too often too little discussion about the political, social impacts of these systems as they're introduced on people. And so what we see ourselves as doing is researching the impacts of these systems and working with the communities that are very generous with their time, often the people who work with us, who agree to being interviewed, for example, or who share their insights with us, working to try to make some of these impacts more visible so that we can have broader discussions about what's happening on the ground and how things could be otherwise. So we're not just observing one situation in isolation. We're looking to see, okay, what's happening on the ground. We're trying to document what's happening, how these technologies are impacting people, what those experiences look like, what happens when people try to redress or prevent harm, for example. How long does it take for that redress to occur? What mechanisms are in place that people can use to try to counter or challenge the harms that they're experiencing? What happens when people try to argue for greater oversight, or they try to argue for particular kinds of legal protections to ensure that harms won't occur going forward? Does anybody listen? Does change happen? What's required to move that needle, right? Like how do we ensure that the kinds of harms that we're seeing happening on the ground aren't repeated over and over and over again, and that they won't happen in the future to others? So what we do very deliberately is we publish our research findings in different formats. And so we do publish academic pieces, we write articles. We also publish in non-academic formats. So we publish reports which would, be presenting certain kinds of policy recommendations. We publish for a general audience. So I've written for Scientific American, I've written for The Conversation in Canada and the UK. We work with others, civil society organizations, for example, to try to spread the word, to try to contribute to discussions as they're happening on the ground. I've done library talks, so we do library talks, we do workshops, things like that.